Please welcome.
And we are live once again, episode 7, the MCW Cast. You know you can catch us every Tuesday at 8. I'm Legacy MCW Pro announcer Larry Legend.
And I'm Dan McDevitt.
And I'm Tara. Welcome.
We're rolling right along, episode 7.
I feel great. I want to give a quick shout out to my mom. Hey, Mom, I know you don't really follow what I do, but, you know, at this point, I've got a voice. We've got an audience, and I always, you know, pictured giving my mom a shout out like Wayne Brady or George Gray from The Price is Right, you know, with whatever kind of platform. So real quick, episode 7, All Good Girls Go to Heaven. I want to say I love you, Mom, and thanks for supporting me through all these years.
Aw, that's sweet. I just remembered I've met your mom before. I remember being in your house. This had to have been like 20 years ago.
You know, a lot of people don't remember that, but when we were doing business with Toby Yashimura from Springer,
right.
He had that kind of project that he was going to do a pilot of, the
The
tough men
fighting
fighting.
thing,
Yeah,
the bar brawling
that's
one.
right.
We filmed
That's
it
right.
At my house. That's right.
Yeah.
It was Dino Divine and Warren and Two Dope.
Yeah.
They fought and they were brawling and they were like, oh, don't worry, we'll make it sound like we're tearing the place up. But your mom
Right.
doesn't have any. And you know what? They were men of their words, because if you, I never saw that besides when it happened, but you would have
Right.
thought that they were breaking the house down. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever
That's
think it made
right.
it past the pilot.
No,
Yeah,
you
we filmed one in a bar too. with
that's right.
RJ.
After my house,
Yeah.
you guys went to a
Went to the
bar
bar,
and did
that's
another one. It
right.
didn't go anywhere, but yeah.
It was a pilot. Yeah, he pitched it.
Yeah.
He pitched it to NBC or something.
Yeah, sometimes things work
Right.
out, sometimes things don't work out. I'll tell you who it is working out for our last guest from episode 6, the Soldiers of Savagery.
Absolutely.
2/3 of the Ring of Honor 6-man champions, and let me tell you, some delightful gentlemen. I gotta level with you. I just felt so good hearing them articulate themselves and just having that focus, that desire to go further from where they started right here at MCW. It warms my heart.
And you know, I like that you were able to follow that journey because you weren't really here for that. So, and you had mentioned that last week on the podcast that you were not familiar with their story and how they got their origins here. So that was good.
Every episode's like a trip down memory lane. When I saw them come out in those black suits, I did remember when their origins of like being the muscle for Napalm and Trick, you know, that little offshoot of the Black Wall Street.
And look, they were my shows, but it shows like how you know, just with the shows and so much is going on. It was like I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, you guys were kind of teaming with them being the muscle before.
Right.
You know, they were the sons of savagery with us and
Right.
kind of split off on their own and did their own thing. So for me too, man.
Yeah.
And
Also, just want to apologize to Khan, okay? Towards the end of last episode, I called him Quan by accident. A little slip of the tongue, but I heard they really rode him on Twitter after episode 6. Everyone was like, so, Quan, how's it going, you know? Saw you on the podcast, Quan, you know? So, sorry about that. That is Khan, the chosen Khan. And follow him and Prolific Moses on Twitter. And follow us at MCW Cast 2021.
Yep.
Great way for us to interact with you. One of the most interactive podcasts going today. And
what about our personal handles too on Twitter? Because we're all personal.
Yeah,
You
we
know, I
never
don't think
really
ever said that.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
at Danny McDevitt.
That's
on
easy
Twitter.
enough.
I'm at MCW Tara.
Yep, and mine's the easiest of all. I'm at BLKLKP. Don't ask. Well, actually,
Larry Kennedy Phillips.
that's right, Tara.
I know exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
A lot of people don't know that. I took the front end of Blackout, which was the group that kind of introduced me to CZW, and I took my initials from my origins here in MCW Pro as Larry Kennedy Phillips.
Phillips.
Yeah.
I knew it. As soon as I saw your handle, I was like, oh, I know what this stands
Yeah.
That's so funny because I had seen your handle many times over the years, and I'd always like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's funny because I was like, I mean to ask you, but well, now I know.
Yeah, well,
we learn something every week here.
I guess what I was trying to say was I'm not all the way Blackout. I just was the announcer for Blackout, and that kind of sprung me into being CZW announcer, which is where Larry Legend was born. But my origins of the first time I ever had a microphone in my hand and Jeff Jones passed it to me was Larry Kennedy Phillips. So
That's
I took
right.
that, and that's the end of my handle on Twitter. So yeah, give us all a follow. Give us a follow personally. Give the cast a follow at MCW Cast 2020 on Twitter. And
hey, if you're watching us right now, if you're watching our stream, and you're watching on Facebook, share the feed. Do us a favor, share the feed, like it, comment, helps the algorithm. And same with YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, like us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're producing and putting out a lot of different content, not just the MCW Cast, but releasing Flashback Friday matches every week from our shows. And we're working on some other content that we're going to, original content will be posted on our page. Make sure you subscribe to our page.
That's right. We are rocking and rolling. We want you to rock and roll with us. So many platforms we've grown into now.
That's right.
This last week's been a big week.
Yeah, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Pocket Cast, SoundCloud, Spotify, Radio Public, and of course Facebook, as we mentioned as well.
And
so,
if you are somebody that likes to consume your content podcast wise, just by the audio versions, like one of the platforms Tara mentioned, make sure you subscribe and or follow us on those platforms. Again, that helps our algorithm. So don't just pull up the show and listen to it. Just click the follow button and subscribe, and that way you get those. When we release and drop the audio version, which is usually the same night or early the next morning after it streams, you'll get them delivered right to you. And again, it helps us out.
That's right. Yeah, so connect with us on all those platforms. Use the hashtag AskMCWCast. You can use that hashtag on Facebook, Twitter, even in the YouTube comments. We want to see it. And what we do is we click that hyperlink. There's a hyperlink whenever you use a hashtag, at least on Twitter. And when you click it, then if there's any questions that we missed, they all come up right uniformly in order of when we receive them. So please use that hashtag AskMCWCast.
Yep. Before every episode, I go through and I read all of them. So, if you have something to say, we will eventually find it.
That's right.
And not only that, we've got our Ask MCW Cast at... not Ask MCW Cast. We've got our Buy Me a Coffee.
Yeah, so many different things.
I got that wrong.
Yeah.
I was talking about the questions and I was getting thirsty. But yeah, if you want to support us even further, you can become a recurring member or you can just buy us a coffee, and that would be a great way to show support. And we really do appreciate that. And we love having all of our supporters and our coffee club members. And thank you very much for that.
Do we have anything from our coffee club members this week, or
we got some questions, right? That we'll get to
with
later
our
on
guests. In the episode.
Okay.
We've got some questions from our fans, yes, but we did have some repeat customers buy us some coffee. So
right, because the members too.
That.
If you're the member at the Buy Me a Coffee, the monthly member, they get notice in advance of who the guest is going to be,
right?
And they get the chance to submit their questions.
That's right.
That we'll ask them here and give them credit for those questions.
We have several questions this week. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for those who have done that already, and. Love to have some more coffee from y'all.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into depth with what was asked this week. We have a great guest lined up, episode 7. But right now, let's pay the bills. Let's take a quick little break, and we'll be right back with our guest this week,
Ken Dixon.
Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, this week's guest, Ken Dixon. What's up, Ken?
Hello.
A little bit better circumstances than when I just saw you. I think I want to touch on from just a couple days ago. A lot of people don't know because it wasn't really a public thing, but our good friend John Menadakis, together with Scott Dorsey from Dorsey Art, put together a little private get together for RJ's family to present him a painting. And Scott, if you don't know or hadn't heard of him, you should. He's a incredible painter, an artist. He's done a lot of NFL photos for NFL players, and he did a painting of the Bruiser. Ken was there with a lot of the guys, and it was a nice event. And what an amazing picture he did.
Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah, and actually, other things that people don't know is that he actually trained here at MCW a long time ago.
Oh my gosh! When you said Scott Dorsey, I remembered him from that last.
It was when
it
we
was
were
that
there.
Scott
Absolutely.
Dorsey.
It was like 97, 98.
I remember
like
him. He was one of the last crop of new kids. And when you said his name, an artist Scott Dorsey, I thought, can't be Scott Dorsey. We used to call him Pretty Boy. We used to call him Pretty Boy. Yeah, Pretty Boy Scott Dorsey. Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
him.
that's
Well,
him.
he's he really found his calling in life.
Yeah.
Because what an amazing artist. And
He does great work.
huh?
He does great work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a really cool style where he blends like
There he is.
a
That's Pretty
graffiti
Boy Scott.
background and this motion art.
He does a lot
where
of
he's
work
got-
for the NFL.
Yeah.
Lots
Yeah.
of players.
So here's the big unveiling.
And it was neat for me learning about. He was talking about how some of the colors take weeks to dry. I know how it's like the photos are layered and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, yeah, what a amazing photo and Jimmy's Seafood. The guy, that family constantly.
Yeah.
They're doing.
And John picked that pose out from photos. So this is an actual oil painting, but he picked it out from the hundreds of photos of Bruiser. And John was very specific. He wanted this particular image. So I thought that was a
Right.
great choice.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
and neat how his touch, I guess his signature was he had your son's names in the photo and yours
And my
too.
name.
Yours too. So
And the portrait went home with his parents, and it's hanging up at their house. But we do have a very limited number of prints left that were made from that oil painting. So if fans are interested in buying a 11 by 14, I believe, picture. It's not framed, but it's on very high quality, nice thick stock paper. They're $20 each, and you can get those the same way that you can get the Bruiser Buddies. So you can get those.
Contact
you can message
Tara.
me. Yep, just
Yep.
send me a
That's
message. And Facebook is fine. Whatever, you can send it to the MCW Facebook page. I'll eventually get the message. So that would be great.
all right, so under better circumstances here today, Ken, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I can't complain.
So
The Dixon line.
Dixon
That's how I first was introduced to you.
Yeah.
A member of the Dixon line, and that was taken directly from your name. That kind of stable, or was
Yeah, it
it?
was a little play on words. A little double entendre, as they say.
Yeah.
RG used to tell say the things like that.
Yeah.
That nature.
Ken,
Dixon
you
line.
you kind of popped in. Before we reopened the school,
Yeah.
right? We were at the green room.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an error, I guess, where we didn't have a school for a while, but Dwayne had opened.
Yeah.
Dwayne was doing Gilberg's, right? He had a school for a minute. Was that when you popped
I
in?
came in at the tail end of that. Like literally the day I got there, he signed my contract, and I was hung around to watch training that night. And I came back the next day, and everything was gone. All the pictures, everything that was up on the wall, only thing that was left was the ring and axle. Literally, everything was gone. I felt like it reminded me so much of when you used to tell the story about RJ in the ring not being there.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I just got ripped off. But,
Yeah.
Long story short, that school closed very shortly after. I learned a lot from Axel. Like, things that he told me then are starting to click now. But I paid with a credit card.
Oh, really? Did you get stiffed?
Yeah, because they closed like a month after. So I just disputed the claim and just disputed the charge and got my money back.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Oh, I had to go find the dude that bought the school and go to his house and be like, hey man, I'm disputing this and you're just gonna give me my money back. And he's like, okay, because he was hard to track down. The bank was telling me they couldn't find him. And
Yeah.
Right.
I finally
Oh, that's right. He sold the school or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know what his deal. He is an oddball. But I ended up getting my money back. So
That's so funny. I didn't even know. That's so weird you're saying that, because that's so surreal. Like, pretty much the same thing happened to me. Dwayne Gill had the Monster Factory.
Yeah.
In Baltimore for a minute, but Dwayne at the time, that was when the TV tapings were happening. It was the 90s, so it was 1991 I trained. And Dwayne and Barry Hardy they were going on the road, and they were being the executioners. So Dwayne had this building. I signed up, I paid him, but he was never there. And I would show up at the school, and at the time, Axel in a better state of mind. Axel and Ian, they had just come back from USWA. They had been down in Memphis, and they were like they were slapping the young guys around and just practicing their tag moves, and me and Shane Shamrock stayed in there just because we were probably too dumb to quit, and they beat us up, and then eventually they took us under their wings. So this went on for a couple months, and then all of a sudden we showed up one day and the school was closed.
Oh.
And it was just gone. So yeah, that same thing, but luckily, like Axel he had gotten to like me, him and Ian gotten to like me, and so they kind of took us under their wing, and they were getting out, and we were kind of off and running, and then we got a lot of we didn't have a place to train like a school, but we just kind of started getting our experience on shows. So that kind of mirrors me. Without even realizing it too, the same thing. So
yeah,
that's why when I tell that story about RJ, I felt when I tell that story, like, and that day happened, and he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, I know what you're feeling like.
Yeah.
It happened to me. Like, I got carnied. You know
Well,
what I
it
mean?
happens, a lot in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the first time. Yeah,
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
I mean, Ian Rotten has never been back to Baltimore because of, his ways of like,
he got my parents for like $4,000. Ian Rotten did. He was like staying at my house. He put up together a fake show at Catonsville High School. I didn't know he was advertising Mr. Perfect versus Roddy Piper. We saw, and again, too, I mean, $10 tickets. This is like 92.
Right.
And he skipped town. He skipped town and made it to Louisville, wherever he's at now, with money from my parents. Because I had sold like 200 tickets for a show. And that's how I ended up. I didn't really know Dennis. He was a promoter at the time. But what happened was we got a call from the commission, and the school got a call. Because I've got posters out, I've got sponsors and people in Catonsville. I'm selling blocks of tickets because it would have been like my second or third show, but it would have been me wrestling in Catonsville High School, like my old high school, a year or so after I had graduated. And we had sold. My parents ended up, because I had sold so many tickets and I didn't want to. And he skipped town with the money. My parents ended up paying back. I mean, I'm 21, not even 20, maybe 19, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents ended up paying it back, and that's how Ian skipped town and went. He's never been seen in Baltimore since. He skipped town on basically money my show money a fake show that he put together, and that my parents had to pay back.
Yeah.
So I haven't
crazy.
seen Ian since.
Good on you for
1992.
getting your money back at least and making that a brighter story, brighter ending.
Yeah, that closed, and I was just kind of floating. I remember we talked a little bit just about where I could go. So you were saying that you were thinking about opening the school again, and so it was either I could drive to Ring of Honor, who was openly taking students at the time at their Bristol dojo, but at the time I was at the agency in Alexandria, so it was just kind of crazy to drive to Bristol or even further to Allentown for the Samoans. So I hung local and did some reps locally, and that just I get a lot of credit to guys like Jimmy Stars and Sean Cannon, because they went out of their way and they took care of me. Where the guy running the show was just, he is what he is, and he's kind of a jerk. I ended up getting kicked out of there, so I would pay with a card, just because to cover my tracks, and he charged like every time it'd be a different fee on the swipe. I'm like, hey man, like I'm paying you the same money, but my fee is different every time. He's like, oh, I don't know. It is what it is.
It's a glitch.
I'm like, right.
Was that a glitch?
It's a glitch. Oh, he noticed that. It's a glitch.
So
it
I'm
was
like,
only
hey,
a glitch because you noticed.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
He got upset that I was calling him out. I was like, hey, man, you know what? You need the money more than I do, I guess. And he was like, get out. You can never come here again. I was like, oh, man, here I am. Messed this one up. And then the school opened up like a month or two later.
Yeah, and you kind of, but you were a guy that was hungry, and people like that. People like that kind of make their way. Like you figure it out. When you are determined, again with me too, like, and Shamrock, who, at the time we started with 5, 6, 7 people, and, a majority of people don't make it and don't have that desire to push forward. When that happened, I was like, oh crap, and the school's closed, but I was going to make it. It just so happened that Axel and Ian had been beating me up and kind of started taking a liking to me and Shamrock, that they were like, okay, come on. Like, and I'd go to shows with them and they'd introduce me to people. So you kind of find a way. I think that happens with
That
everybody.
was
You
kind
figure
of
it out.
So I was coming around and helping guys, doing the ring crew thing, and like Ronnie was letting me roll with them a little bit before shows. He'd show me a little something while they were getting ready, and I ended up palling up with JP and Jesse before she left, and Hoss, and they all kind of took me under their wing, and just kind of waited for the school to open, and that was that. They took me on the road with them, and I just kind of got to watch how everything was going down and how everything, just that was fun, being on the road and just, everybody's just real pumped about wrestling, and you just talk about wrestling the whole way there and back, and it was awesome.
Now, when did you know you wanted to do this? Like, was this a childhood dream?
It really,
take us back to little Ken.
Man, little Ken was a nerd. Like the little Jerry Maguire kid with a bowl cut and glasses. And, man, I was a loser. So like I didn't like wrestling. I wanted to watch cartoons on Saturday mornings.
Okay.
I started out that way. I remember my mom took me to the dentist once, and WCW was on. It was Cactus Jack, and I was like, man, can't we go to 45 and watch cartoons? And that was like Little Larry, though, but
I wanted to watch X-Men, and me and my brother were getting into fist fights about what we were going to watch on Saturday mornings. And finally, my parents had made us, we had to alternate. So I'd have to watch Superstars was on Saturday mornings when I was a kid. And eventually, we would get to where he'd be watching Raw. And the moment I remember the most that just kind of hooked me was when Mankind had debuted. And he was making guys throw up, and they were blurring it out on TV. It was nuts.
I remember that. It was Bob Sparkplug Holly.
Bob, I didn't want to say Bob Holly because Bob's beat me up a couple times.
No. Call him Sparky Plug.
I don't do that. I don't do that. See, I share a locker room with Bob sometimes. I'm 0-2 with Bob. I need to get my
feet back.
Yeah. Every time I'm seeing him, like, hey, Bob, I suck less now. So maybe third time's the charm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was nuts to me that was a thing. And then I saw like Shawn Michaels, and it was like the Tiger Stripe Shawn Michaels. That was the coolest Shawn Michaels to me. It was the same thing. Like these guys are just cartoon characters, except they're real people. Like that was it.
That's funny. You remember those? What was you, Larry? Like, do you remember a match? Like I remember. I know the match that got me hooked.
I mean, I guess I remember specifically, I believe it was Macho Man fought Andre the Giant on Saturday night's main event, and Buster Douglas was the referee.
Yes.
And I remember I fell asleep by the time the main event happened because I was a kid, but I remember it just being a big deal that they kept advertising like this Saturday night. Saturday Night Live is like is preempted for Saturday night's main event.
You remember the dun. For me, it was, we were talking about him before the show started. Jack Adonis was friends, or Dave Witt was friends with my brother, and he brought over this tape, that had just happened, I guess like on the Madison Square Garden network, and he's like a VHS tape, big clunky tape.
I remember,
big clunky VCR. Hulk Hogan defeating the Iron Sheik for the WWF title, and that was it. And I remember, and he's like, you gotta watch this. When I watched it, and I was just, the night Hulkamania was born.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is
mesmerized.
This?
Yeah.
What is this?
Those are such glorious moments, like both of them, and then not just watching guys
and
throw
then
up.
years later, you'd have the Iron Sheik at your wedding and putting your dad in the camel clutch.
Well,
Who would have ever predicted that?
Tara, do you remember yours that kind of got you hooked?
So as I mentioned last week, I've had a few concussions, so no. So I don't remember specific matches like that, but I remember my childhood having wrestling in it, and it was a family event. My parents were wrestling fans. I remember, we'd put it on TV. I'd hear the music, come running. I loved Ultimate Warrior. We were talking about this earlier. Not because of the person that he was, but for the energy that he brought and what got me. Like, if I heard his music, it was, oh, he's on, you know what I mean? And so it reminded me of that happy childhood experience and, how we'd all gather around together as a family.
Yeah.
And my sister had hers that she liked, and I had who I liked. My mom had who she liked. They were Bret Hart fans. I was too, but... I just wanted to clarify that while I will say that he was one of my favorites, I am not saying that because of the lovely person that he later was.
Right.
Revealed
Outside
to
of
be.
the ring.
Outside of the ring,
Yeah.
yes.
Disclaimer.
But him, yeah, and I have an Ultimate Warrior tattoo on my arm. I mean, it's really discreet. Not everybody can see it, but I feel like I need to put that disclaimer out there that it was not because of that, but it was because of what it meant to me as a child and what hooked me.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Ken, because when you were mentioning how it was not just Mankind, the character, but it was actually the mandible claw and how he would, make people vomit, something that we'd never seen. It takes me back, even though I remember the advertisements for Macho Man versus Andre and that being a big deal, I remember when Outlaw Ron Bass took the spurs off his boots and cut Brutus the Barber Beefcake's face. But it wasn't that. It was the big red X that they kept flashing across the screen. And I was like, I want to know what's going on behind that X so bad. And I want to keep watching for the next time that something like that happens. So it's interesting that kind of that sleight of hand of like, because we know that was probably Alka-Seltzer tablets in Baja or whatever.
What?
He wasn't really vomiting. It was like just,
Wait a minute.
it was white chunks. It was like white, like spit up,
But you know what the
bile.
result of that was?
What?
The result of that was Beefcake being unable to compete for the Intercontinental title.
That's right, and the Ultimate Warrior. That's right. Yeah.
Became the Intercontinental champion.
That's right. You put me on the spot there. I didn't know if you were talking about Mankind if the result of him making people throw up
Ron
was...
Bass, when he got Beefcake, and
took
then
him out.
then he couldn't compete.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
that kicked off the Ultimate Warrior, And for me, remember Ultimate Warrior doing Saturday morning squashes, but nothing. He didn't jump out at me, but man, when the Honky Tonk Man, when that music hit, I came down and beat him in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's great.
It was it. It was off and running with me too.
Yeah, and shout out to Honky Tonk Man, because even though he didn't do much, if you watch that couple, I don't know how long it is, 47 seconds, man, does he wind up for that clothesline that he's going to give him that Warrior Ducks, and that's pretty much all he did. And he took the bam, up, down, bam. Yeah, so violence. It was the violence that, as a child, that really got you. Yeah, me too, really, if you...
I like what I like.
Yeah.
So the history of violence really started at a young age.
It's weird.
Yeah.
No, it's right. It was right on time for me, if you ask.
And you, I guess, didn't you kind of had a trajectory, much like we were talking last week with the guys? You kind of got your career and everything in order.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were kind of come in, you had a career. You know what I mean? You kind of went.
I kind of
like I was the dumb kid that just graduated high school and was like, I'm going to wrestling
like,
school. I got no other plan.
Right.
I would have done that. I just didn't know how guys became wrestlers.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, it's just, I kind of lost touch with it a little bit after high school. Like, I watched, but I was more into playing the video games and just, doing that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I moved here. So we got here in 2002. My mom retired out of the Army, and I moved back. After high school, I moved back. And that's where I met my wife, and she came with me when I came back because I just, I was out on my own and wasn't really working out, and Dad, I needed a job, and so we came back, and like that's, it was after a while was when Gilbert's opened up, but like I had a job, got to do some traveling for that, and it was probably 27, 28 when I broke into business, but it was it's one of those things I look back now. And I'm glad I did.
100%.
Yep.
I told him that last week. Things kind of worked out for me. Here I am, MCW and all that stuff, and I wish if I could go back and do things different, I probably would have, because I think I was more like Wild West.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't know. I don't have plans. What are you going to do? So I think you guys in like SOS last week, I think ultimately you end
I'm
up
envious of guys like Leo who hustled and he made it work.
Right.
And I got to witness that firsthand, where he was just, this is it. All
Boom,
my eggs are in this basket. But a lot of guys, like I run into the guys in the locker room, and everything they had went into the car for gas, and like they're eating candy bars because that's just how things went with their with moving merch and what they were getting paid. And I'm like, your whole life is in that bag. You know what I mean? Like if somebody steals your gear, your life is over.
Yeah.
Like I dig it, But personally, I like knowing where my next meal is coming from, and I don't want to put that control in somebody else's hands.
Right.
So, like I'm happy. Like I have a job that I could do anywhere in the world, and I've done it. And now that I'm in the wrestling, they just follow each other. I can go wherever I want and do either one of them.
But I think there's something to be said. Leo, obviously our kid, but an exceptional talent.
He's a
different where it could have, like, everybody knows. So like Leo had his ups and downs with his, in the locker room with WWE. It's pretty well known, and he admits now, there was some immaturity on his end. That came from youth. That was, what I mean? That could be I've seen in the 25 plus years I've been doing this, a lot of really talented young people make those mistakes, get labeled. You know what I mean? Get like a black eye on them, on their reputation, and don't recover it. And they become bitter, and they, Leo's going to be fine. He's so freaking talented.
He's a hustler.
So that's what I'm saying, that being that young, where that can, you know what I mean? Like, that's the downside. Like, you can be real young. You came in, you're a little bit older. Same with, SOS, but matured. You know what I mean? When opportunities.
Yeah, I was better here, coming in here.
And that translates to when that opportunity comes.
Like it's coming for you guys now.
Right. You've lived the life. You've lived the life of maturity.
I feel like I can look at things with a different lens and not of youth. It's like, even when I first started breaking into wrestling, it's one of those, like, people tell you and you hear this and this and this. And, having been a little older, I believed it because this was my first kind of jump into, like, getting stuff in wrestling. And then I believed it. And then you just kind of get let down. And then my real being an adult and a human being, like, I'm like, okay, until the bell rings, it's not, I'm not gonna get excited about it. It's just not worth getting my feelings hurt. And and I think that's just, I'm happy about being an adult and getting into it a little later, because now I'm able to make those decisions and kind of, like, I can see through the BS.
Right.
And there's quite a bit of it if you if you
Yeah.
surround yourself with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we want to talk to you a little bit more about, some of that advice that you got when you started training. But we're going to take one more quick little break. And when we get back, I want to hear about the foundation that, was forged right here in MCW Pro.
Sweet. Let's do it.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWcast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we are back with Ken Dixon. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Before we took a break, we were talking about your early experiences with wrestling, being a fan, coming into it at a little bit later age, and some of the promotions that you worked at before coming here. So I wanted to hear about your, journey here at MCW. Tell us a little bit more about that, how you got to be Ken Dixon.
Did we start, like, right before the school? Did we kind of start, were you doing the security thing for Ryan, like, right before
That was literally
the school?
Yeah, it was maybe one show, and then we had the open house, and that's when the school opened in June. I think it was June, but it was the April show when Jake the Snake was here. And
The whole security thing
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old red canvas.
Look at that building. Look at Renee.
man, look at that stuff.
Was that your first match?
Yeah, so my first match in Waldorf.
G-Fed?
Yeah,
Was it
because
G-Fed?
Buck got into an accident. RJ was like, "You bring your gear." Yeah, he's like, "You want to?" I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Maybe you should do it.
Right.
I don't know.
Was that your first match?
No. I'd been working. Tyler had
You're
had
right.
me
That
on
was
once
your
or
first
twice.
MCW
That was my
match.
first MCW match. My first singles.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was kind of hidden in on the tag team and
Yeah.
with Hawson. Yeah, I was nervous, so nervous. And George took care of me.
And that was such a great crowd down there at Waldorf. Like,
Yeah.
I hated that building just because
Logistically,
I just
Yeah,
didn't.
logistically,
I didn't like
yeah.
it visually.
the
I
lighting
didn't like
wasn't
the way
good.
it looked
like,
on
yeah.
pictures
camera.
were always kind of.
But I loved the crowd there, and
Oh.
Waldorf is super close to Hollywood, and we've talked on this show multiple
Not if
times
you ask them.
before. Which I don't.
Not if you ask
I know
them.
they don't. It's really
It's
hard.
they
like
won't go.
another world, and I don't get that because they're literally
Too far, won't do it.
20 minutes apart, and I have no idea why they feel that way. But
Yeah, great crowd in Southern Maryland,
Easy to
Hollywood,
please,
Waldorf.
yep.
Like, I love those kind of crowds. That's why I like working in the South. Like,
But
wrestling
you
fans.
know that you talk about that like 20 minutes. That was something me and Dennis, when we came back we had kind of built our crowd over like Glen Burnie, Michael's 8th Avenue and that side. And when we came back and we started running the North Point Flea Market, I mean, granted, you got the people we mention all the time, the Greg, Papa Lucas, and Charles. And
I used to
Dr.
sit
D.
in the front row with
Like,
Greg.
They come, but for the most part, did you really?
Yeah.
The most people would
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, we when are you guys coming back to Michael's?"
Yeah.
Like, and we're like, it's 15 minutes. It's right across the bridge.
But
there's
Like,
a bridge.
Yeah, but it's a bridge
And a toll.
You know. So we actually, I don't remember when we came back. We started doing like, hey, we'll pay your tolls. Bring your toll receipts.
Wow.
We were doing that at
Yeah.
North Point
Yeah.
because it was like we were like, well, we don't have like this is where we're running.
Right.
Right.
So we
This
got
is where
to
we're
find a way
running.
to talk them in the building.
Talk them in the
you know?
building, and we did that. We were offering that. It's like so weird. You know, you got your hardcores, but
Yeah.
some people you're average. And I'm like, I don't know, for wrestling and everything I've done in real estate, all I do is drive. So for me, it's like 15 minutes. I do
Yeah,
that every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, all over, you know.
And I'm the same way. I mean, like, I'm not from Baltimore. I'm from about an hour and a half away from here. And so I would drive to visit my family like every 3 weeks or something. But I remember RJ and I would say, hey, let's go out to dinner in Towson. And he'd say, all the way in Towson?
I
And
do the
I would
same
look
thing.
at him and I'd be like, but, like, it's 4 miles. What do you mean all the way in Towson?
Right.
And we got to where we, like, joke about it. But he would say that all the time. I'd be like, oh, let's go here. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's, I don't know, it's some kind of Baltimore
Yeah.
mentality they got going on. Like, you can't
I
cross
do the same
these,
thing. Like, the
you can't cross
only
these
time I cross the
lines.
bridge is to go to Jimmy's. That's the only time I cross the bridge.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't like leaving the house. Like,
Right.
It's too far.
And we
But I'll
can't,
drive 8 hours to go wrestle for 6
Right.
hours.
Right.
But we built our own little audience in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Waldorf too. That Southern Maryland, everybody down there. What a great audience. We miss them just like we miss the rest of our fans. But
So who was a part of your class when you were training? I know we saw a little bit of video up there, but who were
I was
like
in class numero uno
the infamous one, the one we were
Yeah.
talking about with Joe Keys, the
With,
one where
That was a
everybody's
loaded
making it.
class.
with Leo and Joseph and Patrick
Patrick.
and
Renee
Jesse.
Michelle.
Renee. Yeah, Renee was intermittent. She was, she was already,
She had a cup
Running-
of coffee in
yeah.
in
She-
the
but
business,
she was-
but she was
she
really
was-
getting trained. She was just doing valet. Remember, she was just kind of doing valet
Yeah.
stuff. She
Yeah.
wasn't really getting. She kind of really started getting trained like to wrestle.
It was
here.
fun,
Yeah.
getting close with Renee and knowing Jesse and then
Yeah,
them
Jesse, right,
being, girls.
right.
But like, yeah, Leo, Patrick, I think that was it
Joe
for
Keys.
new guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joe-
Joseph
Yeah.
was there. There might have been 1 or 2 other floaters, but guys, faces,
Yeah.
like, things are blurry, but you always remember those
But
guys.
a lot of that crew is either broken through or starting to break.
Yeah, it's
through. They're
nuts.
starting to
And-
break
Yeah.
through for that class.
We'd have talks in the car about it all the time, and like everybody who was going to do something, with exceptions, like Dante and maybe like Rob, everybody who was going to do something came in that class because there's been so many guys who were right on the cusp, and they just stopped coming or they got hurt, you know, or it's a bummer. And like I would talk to Rich about it years later, where like I don't even learn some of these guys' names because I want to invest in them and I want to give them all this information, and I understand why guys didn't do it for me for a while. Like it took a while for guys to warm up because they don't want to waste their time.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you spend all this time
Yeah,
pouring
well,
information to people, and then they just
Right.
I don't feel like doing this anymore.
And it's heartbreaking, and that
It can be.
you know how like everybody and RJ was kind of known like as my gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Like stay away from Dan, don't
Yep.
talk to Dan.
That was the ladder. Dean, RJ, Kenjo, and Rob.
Yeah, like so that was the thing because when RJ was really pushing to, you know, he wanted to come in and step in. Pat had started with the school, and I didn't want any parts of it. That was the whole thing when Pat pushed me to come back. And it's not that I didn't want to teach anymore. Even though I had the school closed for years, I couldn't take the heartbreak anymore. And I remember having that conversation with RJ, and the guys would be like, "What do you mean?" And I'd say, "It's great. Like for me, people like Mickey James and Nita and Orlando Jordan and all, Derek Moore, the referee that made it, but the people that you invest yourself in emotionally, even forget the fact that they're paying you, that's irrelevant, and you're running a business. You get caught up and you invest emotionally in these people, and they break your heart when they quit.
Yeah.
And you get your heart broke. It's like being in love, you know, relationships, and you get your heart broke and you get cold, and I would always tell. And then I remember a few years ago, like when RJ started saying like, man, it really does wear at you. And I'd say, yeah, that's why, like, I didn't want. And I wouldn't even like you, Leo, Joe. It was a couple years before I'd start like to get better, more friendly with you, because I'd say like, I don't want to start investing and teaching because you're giving like a piece of yourself that you've gotten from other people, and then they quit, and you're like, man, that guy or that girl had all the opportunity and potential in the world, and they just walked away. And I felt it hurts, and
It does.
and you do, and
happens
RJ figured that
at
out.
work with my apprentices. I'll have a good apprentice for 6 months or a year, and then he decides he wants to go change tires. It's like, man, I just, you know, ran my mouth for a year trying to, you know, impart this wisdom that was passed down to me. All professionals want to do is pass it on.
Right.
And plus, you know, most of us just like the sound of our own voice anyway. We just want to pass it on and want to share it with other people. It's funny you were talking about RJ coming in, because that security spot, when I broke in with Ryan, I got my ass chewed by Rich and Earl, and they were just cussing to me, and like they just kept repeating themselves. So I just kind of tuned out because okay, you already said it, I'm done. Like, I'm done listening now. Just kind of Homer Simpson floated out of my body. And after they left, like you said something, and it was like, yeah, you know, we'll fix it, whatever. And then they just, rah, 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 rah. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm done. And RJ was there, and he just kind of, like, I don't really remember the conversation. And he's like, look, this was wrong, this is why. And I want to help you. I'm going to be around more. I want to help you guys fix it. And, like, I didn't recognize him because I used to come to shows, you know, in my early 20s. I have, like, fan pictures with him that are, like, so hidden. It's not even funny. Where he let me hold the belts. Like, him and Pat let me hold the belts.
And yeah, you'll do anything to prevent them from coming out.
Oh, yeah. Man, like, no facial hair. Like, yeah, hair on my head. It was, never. I told him I had him, and I would never show him. Like, actual physical pictures. But, yeah, like,
So
I just didn't recognize him. So
you
I was
think
kind of
you
like, oh,
didn't.
this guy is, thanks.
Right.
And it turned out to be the Bruiser.
Yeah, he was standing next to me in the green room, and RJ was, you know, people know our relationship and first student. He was standing next to me in the green room, in the back, and it was getting awkward because I'm like, who is this guy? Swear. Do you remember that?
I remember, yeah.
Like 10 minutes, and he's standing there, and I got to where, like, I could feel him looking at me. I can't remember who was there. Maybe Booker T. Maybe it was around the time where they were at Booker T.
No,
that
RJ
was later.
on that show with Booker T.
Was he?
Yeah, he wasn't there.
In that match.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
so it was
I
before
distinctly
He came
remember,
back
and I
in a
remember
different match.
feeling
Yeah.
uncomfortable that this guy is standing here, and then he's smiling, And I remember it being a couple minutes. It felt like hours. And then I'm like, RJ? But, like, it was 10 minutes where I didn't... He was waiting. It got to be obvious that he was waiting for me to acknowledge him. But I was like, who is this frickin' jabroni? Standing here in the
Got
locker
8
room,
by
like,
10
staring
ready.
at me.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to
And it
book
was
me?
RJ. I mean, what did he... Tara, he had, at that point, he had shaved all his head off. He had went from long, scraggly hair, no beard,
Right.
clean shaven, and probably down 100 pounds.
Well, he was there at the end with Gilberg's too, and that was not a good period for him.
Right.
So this was after
Yeah.
that. When he
14.
when he walked, he walked away for a few years. Took
Maybe
from like
2014.
2012 to 2014, I believe. Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
right around then. And then nobody had seen him, you know?
Right.
I mean, like, he literally wasn't even in this state for a chunk of time. So
Right.
nobody had seen him. And, you know, I think he underestimated the effect that his appearance was
Man.
going to
Yeah,
have.
I didn't, he was standing right next
Yeah.
to me.
Like
I
he had
couldn't-
wrestled at the green room first was I think his first match back against Mustafa. It's a funny story about that one later.
I'm
But
just
when
thinking
like
he must
he
have
came
enjoyed
back
that.
with Gangrel, like but
Right
the
here,
people
that was here.
yeah, and even here, like I remember being here and being doing security for that, and is like looking back now at he's like I'm kind of a big deal. And he was a big deal, like
Yeah.
because people like were like, oh, that's him.
Well, that's
Where's
why
the rest of them?
I was so.
Right.
That's why I was so insistent on that match
Yeah.
being in.
You could see it on his face.
Yeah, and
It was
being
like that
in
Edge
Bruiser
Royal
tribute we
Rumble
did.
moment, like where Edge comes out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is really happening right now. Like they remember me like X amount of years later, and then this was same kind of deal with him. Like
Yeah.
he comes out.
And it was a shocked reaction from the fans. It was
And
a
you could
big
hear the
reaction.
fans. They're like, "That's Bruiser." Like you could hear them saying
It
that. So
spread. Like
I
it was a
re-
wildfire type of effect. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I said earlier I don't remember a lot of matches, but for whatever reason that one always stuck out in my head. And it was
Yeah.
that feeling and that being reborn.
Yeah, Ken, it's really poignant what you mentioned about how Bruiser, after Earl and Rich had chewed you out, kind of like, had that kind of moment with you, like heart to heart, this is what you did wrong, this is what you could have done better, this is why. Because I remember when RJ came back and he was the slimmed down, clean shaven RJ, I remember observing him so much getting back into that coach's role that I remembered from the old Bone Breakers, that the locker room leader that he was. So it's just a testament to like what was inside him to drive him to take
he
some-
was
This is
still-
the kinder, gentler.
he was
version.
still a hard
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
Like, he,
Oh well, yeah.
he was like he expected nothing but perfection from us, but it wasn't in such a role that like he's gonna make you feel bad about it. He will for a little bit. We're just gonna poke and laugh and haha, you dumbass. And but then this is why this was wrong. This is what you need to do to get better. And like I tell it to the guys now is it's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to make the same mistake over and over. Like doing that means you're not coachable to me, and then
Right.
I can't mess with you. So make a new mistake if you're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah, it's even okay to bust your trainer open.
Man,
you
I
know?
was gonna get into that. I beat him up so much because he left himself open for me and like thought I was gonna take care of him, and like it was a Wednesday. The school was open on Wednesdays briefly, and I was down here. I came down with Flash. Were you here? Or did you hear about it?
I must have heard about it.
So
I could have been here.
I came in with it was me, Ryan, Flash, Ronnie, and RJ was here, maybe somebody else, but he had snapmare and he went for that Mr. Perfect flip over thing that he used to do, and he came in real tight. So when I came down, my front teeth went right into his forehead,
You gashed him open.
wide open, and I'm like, oh. Flash is like, he's gonna kill you. I'm like, oh no, I'm new.
Right,
I'm gonna die.
Right.
I should probably just leave.
Right, you just roll out of the ring and just go right out of the building, like.
He was
Wouldn't have been the first.
right. Man, he's
Wouldn't have
like,
been
see you
the first.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Man, he was the coolest, man. Like, he never got like hot at me. Like, he was always a learning moment, or it was, it was like, oh man, I was on me. And that's something that anything that happens in the ring, I have to take control of it. Like, if I allow it to get out of my control, unless it's somebody that I trust enough to take control, then it's on me. Like, ultimately, just so many little things that are just subconscious. Like, just every time I make a mistake,
Right.
like I just, so many little things.
Yeah, well, being able to receive that kind of criticism or to be able to receive feedback is a huge thing. And, sometimes you encounter people in this business who don't handle that so well.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Exactly. We've all been around a minute, so we know that we've encountered people like this.
There's so many soft and tender people now that break into wrestling, and you can't tell them they suck because it's subjective and it's art. And you got to be nice. This is art. Who are you to judge my art? It's like, no, your wrestling sucks. And that's kind of what's on the marquee, right, is wrestling, not fancy art show, whatever you're trying to do here. Like, you're claiming wrestling and you're not doing wrestling.
It's like JR used to say, it ain't ballet.
Right. Ballet ain't on the marquee.
No.
Right.
Not this time.
But it's weird. You're talking about kind of an era that we're in right now. And I kind of
socially, basically, that's kind of how.
It's like the participation trophy era. Like, oh, you're you know what I mean?
And
like
wrestling isn't, and I get it too, because I like wrestling. Ken's right. I mean, wrestling, you're right. Like there's no. The only way guys get better, the only way I've seen guys and girls get better, is just being honest, like brutal honesty. Like, you suck, and then you're either, you're gonna work through it, you're gonna get better, or you're not, and you're gonna quit. There's no.
That's the thing about working with RJ and then Joey later. Like, you always knew where you stood with both of those guys, and me, like, personally, I like knowing that, because if you aren't telling me that I'm messing up, then I'll never know, and I'm gonna keep making the same mistakes. And I guess that's just something that I have, kind of beat into me professionally as well. Like, my boss can't get mad at me for messing up, because you never told me. Like, the expectations were never set. So you set the expectations, then you can get mad at me all you want. So, like, I always knew where I stood with those guys, so I could, do my best to meet those expectations. But if you never set them, then you just open yourself up to just, not have any expectations to meet, and you just do whatever you want. And kind of feel like that's where we're at now.
Right.
All the vets are either gone or they've been signed up, so now it's just carbon copies of carbon copies of carbon copies, and
no bruisers, no RJs there to kind of like really tell them, execute the what, why. This is what you did. This is what was wrong about it, and this is
run
what.
In the we would take it. Like, he came on the road with us like 2 or 3 times.
Oh wow!
Because Luke begged him to come, so finally begrudgingly he hopped in the van with us, and we would
That's
go down
awesome.
to Luke's. It was the best.
Yeah.
Because he would take over driving through the middle of the night, because he didn't trust any of us to do
it.
The only thing that would have made it better is if I drove you.
Oh, no. I don't. Between that, like, he'd get mad at, like, Sean Studd, or Marshall for doing, just Marshall things. And, between, like, having, so imagine RJ over here with us, and then having Bob Holly and Billy Gunn across the locker room, and you're getting hit from all angles of these guys that are just, like, men.
Yeah.
Don't take any crap from anybody. Just they'll beat you up just cause, and that's just how it is. It's the best. Like, you got to get burned. It's trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are the guys that are going to make you better.
You mentioned Bob Holly. Much like I do for a lot of guys, that when they're the guys and girls, when they're coming in and working hard and busting butt. I remember putting you with Bob.
Oh, man.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Like, that was your first name.
Yeah.
You've done that forever.
I've always, for me as a promoter, guys and girl, Tara working with Sherry Martell.
When I was a manager, I worked with probably every big name you brought in, to be honest.
As I
managed so many
transitioned
people,
from, wrestler to trainer and then promoter, more, I've always enjoyed that. Like, people working and they're like, all right, I'm going to take and put them in there with a national name, because it's one thing to start getting comfortable. It takes you out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Okay, you're now you're getting on shows and you're working with guys that have been in your school or local guys. Now all of a sudden
you're working Lawler.
Now you're working. You're going to work somebody you watched on TV for 15 years.
And that changes everything.
Everything.
I remember when you told me I was working Sherry Martell. I remember we were in a hotel room. It was me, RJ, you, and Kim. And I remember you telling me. And in my head, I was like, oh, my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Because I definitely watched her.
But you got to play it cool.
I was like, and then that panic sunk in. And I was like, oh my God, I'm working Sherry Martel? What? And then I was like, what? I'm going to mess this up. Like, then I had all this self-doubt. But I remember being told that was the first real name I had worked with.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. So
Multiple
I appreciate
WrestleManias, multiple pay-per-views,
Yeah.
internationally known stars. You would create those opportunities. And it's kind of like you're watching your kids, you know,
Yeah.
sink or swim.
Right.
You know, sink or swim. We gave you the foundation here. Now get in there and do it with Jay Lethal or
Right.
Yeah.
whoever have you.
So, Ken, have you had a favorite person that you've worked with?
Man,
'Cause you've worked in a lot of promotions, too.
I've been given so many opportunities to work with like top guys and just, oh man. If I had to pick somebody, it'd probably be like Billy.
I knew
I've-
I was going to cut you off and say Billy.
I've
Gunn,
worked
because-
with Billy, or Billy and I have wrestled on a handful of different promotions, and like so many times here, and 6-man tags and 8-man tags and singles, and I learned something new from him every time. Just the guy's still a machine on TV
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Like guys still can't keep up with him. Yeah,
And
it's just like
yeah,
you just
mid-50s.
can't.
Yeah.
you just
I
can't
was
help-
going to say, like, he's like...
Well, and the reason I
So-
said I was going to cut, like, tell me if I'm wrong here, but, like, that's one thing again, watching him and all the different people I've put him in the ring with, Billy's like that Bob Holly where he's, like you said, just a man. He's a man.
He's a man.
He's a man, and he's a tough guy, but I would watch him with everyone, and he watched him with you a lot, doing stuff with the Dixon line, and he might get fired up and pissed,
yeah.
but then
Yeah.
he'll, like, walk around the locker room and cool down, and he'll come get you and go, come here.
Unless Kevin
And then-
Keenan's there, and then
yeah,
Kevin just
right.
keeps gassing him up.
Yeah.
What?
But
What'd
he-
you
like-
do? You messed it up.
Like
and
he
you
wants
blew
to-
it.
It's important to him not to fire up, but then also to come back, much like you talk about how RJ would teach and go, all right, well, here. I was furious.
We gotta let
but
him
this
cool
is-
down,
Yeah.
and then we'll
yeah.
go find him. Because if you don't find him, he's gonna find you, and then you're in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. Every time I'd see him, or we get get a chance to wrestle, I learned something new from him, and it's just from being in the ring, just try and match his intensity. Like he brings it.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I remember watching him on TV as a kid, and he was like a pretty big dude, but there were still giant guys, right? And then I meet Billy Gunn for the first time. And I was like, this guy's a freaking brick house.
I'm sorry.
Whoa!
A horse. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that with censors.
And then, like, man, just imagine how big the rest of the guys are. Like, it's a different era now, because now
Larger than life.
Billy towers over majority of the guys.
I was saying
now.
that a couple weeks ago. We're talking about him. People have. He's a guy that his TV has never done him justice.
Nope.
You would not realize how freaking massive this dude is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a.
He's
tank
fun
of
to
a
have in the
human being.
locker room too. 'Cause
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy to be around.
My bad. I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
no.
off, but a lot of the foundation right here, homegrown MCW Pro. But you also mentioned another trainer that you had that really, kind of guided you along. And I take it that was in the ROH Dojo, which eventually you started training there a little bit extensively. So,
Joey was here for a little while with us. He would kind of, snag a couple of us here and there and, work on us with just fine tuning stuff that we would end up doing at the dojo.
Joey Mercury, to clarify
Joey.
for everybody who doesn't know.
And then when the dojo opened, I was asked to come with the first class, and that was pretty cool. And it got a little rough. My wife got sick after that, and I was kind of intermittent just because he had always told me if my head wasn't in it and just personally, just from being around RJ and just what his expectations are, if my head's not in it, I'm not going to come because I don't want to hurt anybody.
right.
And I just wasn't in the game because, I was worried
Everything
about
you're
my
doing
wife.
personally, right?
Yeah, I was worried, so I would just go home, or I just wouldn't want to be in the ring. Like, I'd go and watch sometimes and take mental reps, but like, last thing I want to do is hurt anybody. And a lot of these guys came with me, and these are my day one guys. And like, I can't do it. It would kill me if I hurt one of these guys because my head wasn't in the game because they're trusting me. But I learned a lot there, man. I really did. Just it's way different than what I'm used to, and just from like the kind of wrestling that I like Mid-South wrestling. I like watching Terry Funk and Leather Glove $1 Million Man. Like I like rough looking wrestling. So to go from just as the crow flies, wild wrestling to now we've got a spectacle that's on television, like Ring of Honor, with some of these just phenomenal technicians. It was a culture shock for me. So I'm like, and even now, as being brought in as the dojo, just being everything stripped away, like there's not really a personality there. I'm having trouble just kind of gelling with it because wrestling is okay, but like at the end of the day, wrestling's a combat sport, and like I don't really want to play pretzels and Stretch Armstrong games. You know what I mean? I'd rather just hit you and we can keep it moving. So it's I'm butting heads a little bit and trying to keep that thing moving.
Well, that goes right back to what you said when we asked about when you were a kid. What was the thing that really hooked you? Well, it wasn't those technical classics. It was Mankind making guys throw up with the mandible claw, shoving it down their mouths and stuff. So
I mean, like at this point, now that I'm like, I stopped playing video games once I started wrestling because I'm my creative player now. So I don't have a need for video games anymore.
That's a great,
I can do to myself whatever I want to do. Within reason.
You're not getting replica belts anymore. You're winning actual championships.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It's funny because a lot of friends from high school are starting to pop up on social media and like, oh, you do this now? Yeah, I didn't buy my belt at Target either, pal.
Right, yeah.
I'm West Virginia champion of the world.
That's right.
The world champion of West Virginia.
My favorite thing about indie promotions, West Virginia champion of the world.
That was the one thing,
Shout out to Tyler Cates, by the way. Tyler gave me so many opportunities with PCW. He gave me the ball to run as the top guy there. It was like a long time. It was probably almost 2 years. And he trusted me and, helped me and put me in the ring with some guys that really pushed me. I got to work with Joey, DJ Z, and, there's probably a handful of other guys. I got to meet Hillbilly Jim working for Tyler.
Wow.
Tyler, it was a really great place to go and work with a different crowd than what we have here.
Right.
So, that was a real fun part of my journey also.
Well, we're going to hear a little bit more about your journey.
Sure.
I want to talk when we come back from this break about the history of violence.
Sweet.
And some other things. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with our guest, Ken Dixon.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast.
All right, back from the break. Ken, before we went to break, Tara mentioned, tell us about the history of violence here in MCW. How'd that whole thing get started?
So look, in my younger days, I got to do some traveling and I got to go to some places where some kind of messed up stuff happening. I was a contractor for the Department of Defense, and I got to do some traveling. And it's a lot of guys that didn't come home. And I feel like it's my duty that I get to live my dream, that I got to go. I want to go the extra mile for those guys that didn't get to finish theirs. And I do that in the way that I like to do it, and I hit people. So I like to do it. It makes me feel good. And that's not like a gimmicky thing. That's it's stuff that I like. I like watching violent movies. I like doing kind of messed up stuff. It's fun. It came around in MCW because I just really didn't feel like I was getting my due. I was getting a lot of cool stuff going, but I didn't really feel like there was anything that was kind of highlighting me and what I like to do. The Dixon line stuff was a lot of fun. I really got to cut my teeth with Joe and Rob, and I had to cut my teeth. But where I got to separate and just kind of do my own thing, I'm just kind of an angry guy. I don't know, man. Like, it's just...
Oh, I remember this segment.
Do you think...
Greg. Like
do you
uncooked
think
chicken.
I think in everybody's career, when they're training too, I always talk about it. It's guys figuring out who they are and finding themselves, and maybe that's where, like, knowing who you are and the frustration and being also at a point where you're ready to find yourself. those things all kind of meet. What's the saying is preparation meets, like, luck is preparation meets, when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Kind of like that aggravation and all that you had combined with, being ready and being at a point where you were kind of ready to find out and figure out who you were in the ring. And, maybe that history of violence is actually really who you are. And it was just at a point where those things were ready to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, at the end of the day, I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof at this point in my career. Like, I feel good. And I'm really just not a big fan of rules, so I'll just push them as far as I can. Like, I don't really like rules in my personal life. Oh, sweet as John. Sucker. Yeah, man, like, we're just all trying to make the trip to the big pay window. So that's what I like. That's what I like to do.
Well, they say the most successful pro wrestlers are the ones who can just turn that reality up, a couple notches, and really pull from their experience. And, what it sounds like you said you witnessed wasn't really a pleasant thing, and then that's kind of reflected in this style of wrestling. So I guess it's Pro Wrestling 101, be real,
Yeah,
Draw
Well,
from
it's not ballet, right? It's not ballet.
like we said, yeah.
Like, I'm not here. I think we talked about it in the previous segment. Like, it's just not. Like, that's not, like, the sooner I can get out of here, the sooner I can go home and get a beer and do what I want to do. Like, this is a job. I have a job I don't like. So wrestling is a job I want to like. So I'm going to do what I want to do. And, I'll push the rules as far as I can get them before I get disqualified, because I'm just trying to get paid and go home. Like, we don't get paid by the hour here.
Yeah.
So just get it done and go home.
Absolutely, yeah. Kind of like early Stone Cold Steve Austin. He ain't working by the hour, folks. Like
That's part of your charm. Let's call you brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Some guys need it. Like, people, you always know where you stand with me.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. And it's cost me some opportunities in the past. It's still costing me opportunities now. But, at this point in my life, like, I'm getting older, my door is closing. So I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things the way I want to do them. And at least I'll go out knowing that I had fun. And I didn't bend. I didn't change myself.
Yeah, you're pretty vocal on social media.
Oh, it's such a game.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and and it rubs people the wrong
Good.
way, and it reminds me of MJF as well. And he's
Max is in on it. Like,
right, exactly.
The fans are in on it now.
Right,
I've
right.
actually, like, people think that I hate them, and most of them I do. But, like, social media is a joke.
it's a big.
If you go on there
Right.
looking for serious topics of conversation, you just got into the wrong stuff, or you're kind of foolish. Like, it's a joke. Only look, you go into my Instagram Explore page. It's wrestling, boobs, bodybuilding, and, like, probably dog videos now. Like, there's nothing serious, and I don't watch the news. The news is a joke. Like, that's all social media is for. Like, so I can just go on there and troll people, make them feel bad about themselves for a minute, and if they take it serious, it's on them.
Yeah.
I like to play, with my opponents, because some of them will get upset. Like, are you mad at me? No, I'm just in your head now, you goof.
Yeah.
It's my lame attempt at psychological warfare, because, like, it works.
Yeah, it does. That's what I was gonna say.
Guys will get in their feelings. I can go into a locker room now, and I know that people don't like me.
It goes back
It's
to
phenomenal.
that sensitive side too of what you're talking about. How a lot of things have changed in the wrestling.
Oh, it's
If
great.
you bust
Like-
on a botch or
Yeah.
a video. I don't know. I would I used to laugh at my botches. Remember we made that video that nobody does it better.
Nobody
video
does it
back in
better,
those
yeah.
days. But nowadays, a guy has a botch and you make fun of it or point it out on social media.
Yeah, and I don't do that too much, because for every one that I point out, somebody's going to find 3 of mine.
Right.
So I don't really do that. I don't really, I just laugh at just people being foolish, or like the Undertaker segment when that came out, and people, instead of looking at a guy who was on top of the business for 30 years, you chose to get upset at him because he thought it was weird that guys stared at themselves in the mirror and played video games all day.
Right.
Instead of, that's what you took away from it. And it was weird because the fans were more upset than a lot of the wrestlers.
I know, that's true.
Like,
I noticed
You
that.
let these people that are supposed to be buying tickets to come see you, and you've let them so far in now. Like
That's true.
that you're your family and these are your friends. Like they're people that pay to see you provide a service, and like I don't owe them anything after my bell rings and after I'm done with my match, I leave, and that's the last you get of me for free. But people like everybody's been included now, so everybody is entitled to this opinion. And I think it was probably Matt Hardy that's like, Twitter's the best thing and the worst thing ever because now everybody has an opinion. And that's a good and a bad thing, right?
Yeah, I remember with the Undertaker thing. I thought that was the weirdest thing. I remember he made those comments, and there's no tough guys or whatever. And he grew up in an era when people had guns and knives in their bag. And I remember seeing lots of fans and like tweeting and all at wrestlers, going, "Man, are you furious about this?" And I just remember seeing like fans were like telling a lot of wrestlers, "You should be livid." I'm like, well
look, there's too many fans in the locker room now at this point.
How many people in the business have made more money than the Undertaker and had more success, long-term success? So I think people in the business, I just was like, oh well, he's entitled to his opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He's entitled.
The guy was on top forever.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was weird that as good of an interview that was. It was 3 hours. It was a 3-hour interview, and that's what you took from it.
Right.
It's like, you don't like me because I play video games? All right, man. Good luck. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Best of luck to you.
It's a dilly of a pickle, as
it's something.
Yeah, you're right.
And speaking of, I guess, fans having their input, we got
We'd like to get your input, actually. We got some stuff we're going to put up on the screen there for
Sweet.
you to take a look at.
Ouch.
Look at that referee.
Table didn't break.
Oh my God!
Well,
It must be a Japanese table.
Where
It's
was
like
that
80
from?
pounds. I'm going to say it's probably Tennessee or Ohio. That's where all the bad wrestling comes from.
Where
Look
is
at the
it from?
kid in the front row there. He's
Look.
like, oh!
The referee's got his sweatpants on,
dead.
shirt's
The table
untucked.
didn't
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
He just dead falls, too.
Oh my God!
Look at that.
It was so solid.
He didn't even break the table. Oh, that guy looks familiar. That's Virginia. That guy looks familiar right there, the tall guy on the right. Oh, I think I know that guy. Oh, that's great. Oh, it's so bad. It's so embarrassing. Like, he's laying there feeling like an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this table didn't even break. Like, this is where we're going to have him, right?
What's this?
Oh, another
Well, it's
another
in high
table.
school,
This
so
is
we
gonna be
know.
good.
Oh, and we just bounced
wow.
right off.
Yeah, where's the Price is Right fail horn? In his Mark Marrow shorts.
Oh, I've seen this.
Oh,
This is brutal.
I've seen this.
Oh my.
He did.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
Oh my
He needs some milk.
Wow.
Just pack it up. Let's go home. Oh, hell yeah. Yes!
Oh God! Did that knock his teeth out? That ladder?
Woo!
Probably rung his bell for sure.
Good night. Oh, this is a good one.
It's Miyamoto. I don't know who he's wrestling.
Oh, no.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Oh.
That's a good stretch on his
wait.
neck.
What?
Poor
Where
guy.
was his-
Oh, that was the finish.
Yeah.
That was it.
His head was caught in his pants.
Look at it. Look at
Look
it,
at
man.
the stretch on his neck,
Oh
though.
my God!
Look at his neck.
I've never seen that. Have
Oh,
you
my
guys seen
goodness.
this?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
That's brutal.
Ow. Oh, my God.
That's that slow-mo destroyer for you.
Right?
Oh, man. That's rough.
Yeah, they just sit on my face. Right after that,
What is
just
that?
sit on my face. Oh, we got another one.
Oh, yes. This is
Sorry for the fans listening on a
This is
podcast.
great.
The audio
I
version.
think I've seen this
We're
one.
watching some
So this is Big Daddy Fool trying to get in the ring.
clips of bad wrestling.
Wait, the guy dressed in street clothes.
Oh,
is he
that-
a wrestler?
Oh, he pile drove himself
Yeah.
on the apron.
What did you call him, Big Daddy Fool?
Yeah. Oh, is this Kevin X slip? Oh. Yeah!
Is that Trick?
Yeah. Perfect.
They didn't even know. Condom
I'm sure they heard, like, what the
They
heck
had
was
to
that?
heard
But they were
something.
saying, like,
Look at them. Look at them. They didn't sell that for a second. They stayed in character. Poor Trick.
Oh no! Who got this video?
oh, look at Ken.
Who got this video?
Not
Look
today.
at Joe. Watch Joe's face.
Where was that from?
That's a birthday party here. Joe's so disappointed.
Look at Joe. Dude,
Becky's laughing.
She posts this video every year. Yes. Whew.
So even to the best of us,
Right,
the
right.
occasional botch happens.
Should have just turned on all those kids, man. I tried to make the saves. Should have turned on all of them. Laugh at me.
Yeah, that's just hours of entertainment, especially those tables that just don't break, no matter how high you jump from.
So
oh God, that's the worst, man. Too, and that just when that happens, it's like it's just they're like jumping on the concrete.
Yeah, well, it's the crescendo a lot of the times, you know.
Joe and I were wrestling Rhett Titus and Caprice Coleman
Okay.
at AML Wrestling in North Carolina once, and Luke was helping them book and put things together, and we wanted to use a table. So we had a table, and the promoter was like, no, this is too hard. It's one of these big church tables. It'd never break. And it was like, okay, well, we only want to use it for a prop anyway later. So we got it, and we used it, and Rhett put Joe on the table while Caprice went up, and before Caprice could jump off the table, broke. It just... So I'm like hiding down.
Like pre-broke or something?
No, it was just, it was like, it was a thick table, not like the, OSB boards or whatever we're getting out with tables. This was a thick, like, wooden table, and it just slowly, like, you could watch Rhett's heart just, and I'm on the outside of the ring, Caprice is on the top rope, so Rhett just does, like, a big standing splash on Joe, and I jump up and knock Caprice off. And,
Oh, nice. Okay.
I mean, he saved it, but it was just so awesome, just table, just...
all right.
tables that won't break, and it's indestructible table though, right? Like,
Right.
man.
The exact opposite of what they were encouraging.
Yeah.
This table won't break. You put Joe on it.
I hope the person who said that in the back was watching when that happened.
I'm sure it was. It's just fun stuff that happens like that sometimes.
Yeah, things like that are what makes it even more exciting.
It's more
'cause
fun,
anything
right?
can happen,
Especially
you know?
in front of a live crowd.
How you gonna improv or figure out the audible to make this work? You
My
know,
favorite part is like,
that's when you find out who the
flows.
workers are.
Oh yeah,
You know,
those are great.
yeah.
It's not a problem until you admit that it's a problem, right?
Do you
I
guys
admit to do
remember?
that.
Do you guys remember the Nitro a couple years ago with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the foam 2x4?
Oh no.
You guys remember?
I do know that, and I know that because of Botchamania, which is one of my.
That's good
That's
stuff.
like one of those worst moments in history. That's like even I'm embarrassed. Like, oh God, he came down and he started and like they're bumping, and then he like throws it, but it like floats.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Like, you don't
Yeah.
you never saw this? Oh, it was like
Yeah.
Perry Saturn and them, I think. We're bumping for it, and Duggan comes down, and like you can't tell, but like he's hitting and they're bumping, but it bends.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see it bend, and it's kind of like, huh? Like what? And then he like throws it, but it like floats.
Like a
not
piece- yeah, like a piece-
Yeah, like floats like a feather. I mean, just
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah, it's on
Brutal.
a Botchamania, and you
Yeah.
notice as
and it
he's
was on a
hitting.
nitro.
Yeah,
It was on a
yeah,
nitro.
live.
Nitro, and it was like you notice it was, and he throws it, and it's like doesn't fly like a piece of wood. It's like.
Man, how much fun was that as a young man or as a kid, to just flip back and forth? Like, I would go insane, like, trying to record Raw on one TV and watch Nitro Live on another TV, and, like, everybody's so divided now on what they like. Like, I just wanted everything I could get my hands on as a kid.
And then, you know what? That's kind of, again, it reflects society. Like with politics, like choose a side.
Yeah.
It's really much like wrestling fans are like, I see it on times, AEW, and WWE's going to go out of business, or AEW, that guy's just losing money. It's like, you're a fan, you're like, you have to choose a side.
Why?
Like, the fans are like...
Why can't you just choose wrestling?
Right.
If you're a fan of AEW, you want the WWE to go out of business. If you're a fan of WWE, and like Ring of Honor, they're fans, and like the Bucks and all went, and then people are like, yeah, Ring of Honor's dead. It's like, what? Wait a minute, like, for a healthy industry, like...
Right. you
we
need
should
competition.
have many organizations
Yeah.
that guys can go to work and make a living, people can make money at. Like, it's really very much like reflective of
It's
society.
weird.
Like, you have to pick your
It's
pick your
weird.
company that you're a fan of and support them, and everyone else should go out of business.
Right.
And you cheer them if the company runs into speed bumps, and it's reflective of society,
Right.
the way kind of how everything is.
Yeah.
And like pick your side and choose it.
Well, we may have been conditioned because, quite frankly, and I think that we all can agree to this.
It's all a conspiracy.
Well, I was gonna say there was nothing like.
Open your eye, man.
I mean, we're on the same page. The Monday Night Wars were really fueled by the New World Order. So
Right,
if
yeah.
you think about it, it was gang warfare. It was the NWO,
Versus
DX.
the world.
Pick a side.
Right.
Which of these two? Which one's the more?
I was a DX guy.
Right.
Yeah,
I got so much
strictly WWE.
suspension for. Suck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got so much trouble for that.
It's fun now because now kind of on Wednesday nights you can kind of go back and forth, and what I do is if I see Tahuti or Patrick or
Yeah.
someone that I know, I stick on that one, and then if I see Mark Quinn or Isaiah Cassidy,
Yep.
other guys that I know, I stick on that one,
Right.
But yeah, it's
That was the fun part. I always thought that was so much fun. Was just flipping back and forth and never knowing, and
Yeah.
the internet kind of ruined it all.
Yeah, it
that-
definitely
and,
did.
and that's what it is. It's like the
Definitely
entitlement
did.
and
I
kind
like
of
being
like
surprised, so I don't even read dirt sheets anymore.
Oh,
Like,
weren't that the best moments of like Raw? You know what I mean? Raw and SmackDown when it would happen, like when Lex Luger
Yeah.
just night after a pay per view shows up, and
yeah.
like that to me. I remember, that back then that was the best. And
Yeah.
that was ECW pre-internet when I was going up there, and
Man.
they were getting hot. One of the things that made them hot was the surprises.
oh, dude,
You know,
when the
lights
lights
go
would
out,
go out.
lights
Oh
go
my
out,
God,
come
Dan!
on.
So-
And Brian Pillman's in the ring,
Or
like
Lawler,
That would happen today,
yeah.
wouldn't be able to pull that off today. Like everyone would.
I
No,
pitched for that to happen. Like, when Ryan comes back, we'll throw all the lights down. He was like, we can't do that here, man. It's emergency lights, and there's people in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Man, come on.
Yeah.
But remember when ECW did it?
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same for you in Joplin, Maryland, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember my second match ever was the lights went off in the middle of it, and
that's
we
great.
had heard it was Kim and I, and we were doing a hardcore match, and we were up in Pennsylvania, and we'd heard stories of when the lights go off, and so the lights went off during our match, and we just
man.
looked at each other and went, "Oh crap! Like who's gonna come out? Like who's gonna run?" They legit lost power.
Oh, man,
Okay,
right.
but we didn't know.
Yeah, it wasn't-
like,
it wasn't.
great.
We literally, we're on the outside, and I'm just like,
run in.
what are we, who's coming out? We fully anticipated some, and I'm so green. This is my second match ever. It's a hardcore match, and I was
that's a great
nervous.
second match.
Right. Like, why not? And, yeah, and that was, I remember that, the whole lights going off thing.
Was that in York?
No, I don't know where it was. I'm, looking to Dan, because he got us set up with all those Pennsylvania shows.
I remember it, but I'm trying. I was.
It was in a big arena. It was a wing, wasn't it like a wing bowl or something crazy? It was.
I'm trying to remember.
That's a cool
I
name.
remember it. I remember it. And
There were thousands of people there. It was
Yeah.
something the wrestling was before something else.
Okay.
Okay,
So they
then
had a
this is
big
not what I'm
crowd.
thinking
I
of. Yeah.
feel.
I remember it,
just
but I
don't know
can't
where
place
it
it.
is.
I
Yeah.
was sitting here as you're, and God, I'm going. God, where was that? I remember it. I remember the whole building cut out. The power went out.
My friend Paul would know exactly. My friend Paul Corbin knows every match I've been in. He's a huge fan of wrestling, and he remembers it. And in fact, the 20-year anniversary of that match is, I think, right around this time, because we were just talking about it. But yeah, so I get it.
Yeah, well,
There's
find
the
out
lights
for
on.
us. I'd like to
I
know
will.
so I
find
could,
out.
pull that
Yeah.
up and,
I will.
yeah.
All right. Well, Ken, we've got some questions from our coffee club members.
Okay.
All right. So, Dan would like to know, how did you feel after losing a tooth in a wrestling match?
I mean, how do you think I felt, Dan? It's actually 2.
And that's not me, by the way.
Not,
wasn't me.
I would hope it's not this.
Yeah. You wouldn't ask a question like that.
Right.
It sucks. I feel bad. I got to go out with my wife now, and she, try to be a respectable human being. But I look the way that I look. But it's great because nobody messes with us. I got to go to work. People that have assumptions about me, they like to tell me they're messed up jokes because they think that I look away, so they like to tell me stuff. And but it's great for a lot of stuff.
And that happened with
Ryan.
Ryan. It was his brace or something.
It was his knee brace that hit me, and I think that was Shamrock night too, because I wrestled Leo the first night, and I wrestled Ryan the second night, and his knee brace on that split leg moonsault, that big Steve Austin brace that he had, bam. So
he did have a big brace.
That's right.
We finished the match, and I kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to bleed on the canvas because Rich was such a hard ass about the canvases and not getting blood on them and stuff. So like I kept my mouth shut, and I remember getting to the back, and I'm just like, lots of cussing, and just was walking that way in the flea market, and then I saw how bad it was, and I was so upset. I was like, I'm ruined. I got my teeth knocked out. And then after, Dean told me to suck it up. It was Dean. It's like, stop being a bitch, man. He's like, this is going to be a good thing for you.
Do you ever just mess with people out in public? Like if somebody says, hey, what happened to your teeth?
No, I got to wear the silly mask now, Tara. I got to wear a mask now, so I don't. No.
Okay,
before
the mask, did you ever just mess with people? Like, I can see you doing that.
So I have a flipper, which is like the little retainer.
Yeah.
I don't wear it anymore because it's like I don't hate having plastic in my mouth.
Yeah, who wants that?
Yeah. I don't get that. I don't know. So I wear it, and I would just play with it all the time because I don't want stuff in my mouth. So I just stopped wearing it. So now, like, I don't know, like people don't mess with me. So like, if I ask them to do stuff, they just do it, or like.
Do they ever ask you about the teeth, and you just give them like a ridiculous thing?
So like, where I'm working at now, they just found out because I got to tell them when I got to go for the bubble and stuff, and that, now that everybody wants to talk about it. So I'm like, hey man, like nobody asked me about my teeth though.
No,
I guess they just assume.
That's disappointing.
They assume I'm just just.
So have they seen you
redneck.
on TV in any of the TV matches or all?
They find them. Like some of them will be like, oh, I Googled it the other day, and then they'll ask me, and it'll be like some crappy match. So I'm really just kind of bummed that that's the first one they saw.
Not that birthday match.
No, that's a cell phone video,
Right.
and I would really be happy if everybody would just delete it.
That was I remember that.
I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself, somebody else will.
I was on the other side, so I had the opposite camera angle. I was on the other side, and so I got the facial expression of your face when you hit the bottom, when the chair hit the
I could have landed on my feet, but at that point, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, might as well sell it.
Egg on my face.
All right, we got a couple other questions. This is from Greg. Hey, Ken, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully with, only one job, and that's a wrestling job. That's where I would like to be. 36, so, doors aren't closed, but I think the, starting to get a little harder to open. But that doesn't stop me from still pushing, still training. I'm still trying to, get out there and do my thing. I feel like as long as I have something to offer, physically or somewhere, that I'm going to keep going until, I'm unable to go. And even then, I've always been the kind of guy that I can help my friends. Then I'm more than happy to do it because that's cool. Like Leo he always got us booked because he didn't have a car.
I remember that. Yeah.
So like, if I can help my buddy out and you get us booked, like,
right,
that's awesome. Like I'll be more than happy to do it. Like if I have it to spare, I'd give it all for my day one guys and even some of these new guys. It is what it is.
What a way to be.
Another question was, when do you feel like you came into your own, and when you started to get it, or did somebody tell you you've got it, you've made it?
Who's asking that question?
Does it matter? No, it's actually
an inside question.
It is?
I think it's inside baseball.
I think it's Dan Garrett, actually.
It isn't. We already answered this
already
question.
answered.
This was actually, it was Greg. He actually had like a 3-part question.
Okay.
So we already answered the earlier part, what got you into
I think
the
once I
sport,
got rid of that punk Ryan McBride, had to jettison the garbage right there when I slapped him in the mouth in Hollywood, Maryland, ran him into a brick wall. No, I really think I don't remember, man. I really don't remember. It's just one of those things. I feel like it just kind of happens, and even still, there's I'll be out and I'll have to ask Keener to be my ears because it's still sometimes hearing, like you can hear when, things are going the way you want them to go or if they're not, and maybe you need to pick stuff up. So I don't know, man. It was probably right before I got into the dojo. I think I was really firing, and even before the pandemic, I felt like I was doing some of my best work. So that just kind of threw a wrench in everything.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of picking the pieces up now.
Okay. And who is there someone who challenges you to do better, be better?
Joe.
Okay.
Joe Keys. He's a machine right now.
Yeah.
Joe and like Brian Johnson, guys from the dojo. And every time Joe learns something new, he shares it with me, or he's always kind of, he's getting to the next step, like the matchup with Gresham, and he's kind of picking those kind of things up. He knows what I like. He knows I like good Southern wrestling. It's just what I like. But he's always kind of pushing me to do more. This is kind of what the next level thing is, and this is where things are going. You got to do this. Think about this, and then you can sprinkle some of your wrestling. So yeah.
All right, just two more. When will you land that Busch Beer advertising deal?
Man, I don't know. I'm working on it every day. I don't know how many times I can retweet their stuff with pure gold, but I drank 5 of those bad boys before I got in here, and I had to save one. I don't know, man. As soon as they open their eyes and just see what they have, and then we'll be good to go. But
Well, the fans listen to the cast. They can
light
up their Twitter.
That's
Heck
right.
yeah.
Light up their
That's
Twitter.
all we
What's
need
their
you to
Twitter
do.
handle? I don't even know.
I need you guys-
Hashtag hire Ken Dixon.
that's right. It's at Busch Beer. Let them know. It's the nectar of the gods.
All right, and the very last question that we have for you is, how many times a day do you have to ghost Greg Excellent's mom?
You kidding me? She still owes me 22 and a half hours. She owes me 22 and a half hours. She cheated me. That whole family cheated me. I got denied out of my time. And then he stapled my gooch in front of the live audience. You didn't see it?
I didn't see that
He
one.
hit me with the stapling gun. Like, lifted my legs up, and I was in my underwear. I was getting ready to do the good business. Oh,
Okay.
his mom.
Well then no wonder he got you down there.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg's overprotective of his mom.
Nah, he's a little
Mama
protective.
Whatever,
Excellent,
man. Whatever. A bet's a bet.
Okay.
He welched. He's an Indian giver.
Oh my!
That's not
He's a
politically
cheater.
correct.
I'm not a
I mean,
politically correct guy.
Ken Dixon. We got Ken Dixon on
So now I'm
episode
going to go
7.
home.
Yeah.
I'm going to play with my
You're
Mr.
canceled,
Potato
buddy.
Head. No.
Your potato head.
They are non-gendered spuds.
I guess.
Something like that.
Now, real quick, I got 2 things to say. There was a question where someone said, "When did you think that you really, came into your own?" For me, from an outsider's perspective, seeing glimpses of what was going on with my home-fed MCW Pro, I'll tell you that when you retired, former Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup winner and MCW champion and MCW Wrestler of the Year Drolix.
You see, I held that in my heart as a big thing to do, and then Phil Stamper just lets him come back all willy-nilly.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. How did you feel after that? To me, was a monumental thing. You ended his career.
I sure did.
And I thought he was done.
Right in front of his kid.
And then he's back. How'd that make you feel? How'd you feel about that? Obviously.
I can't use those words on the cast.
Well, Phil Stamper, you got some splaining to do, because I want to know why Drolix got reinstated and why that...
Indie round Drolix up and throw him back out of here.
I was just going to
That
say,
actually is.
what a great lead-in.
Yeah.
What a great
He's a
lead-in, because
cheater.
everyone knows this is Larry's favorite part of the show coming up.
I love to be filled in by Phil.
Hey everyone, my name is Phil Stamper. It's so great to be back with you this week. It's March. It's March, y'all. Like, I can't believe where we're at in this year. So much craziness has happened. Hopefully things are going to start settling out. And there's a lot of action in the world of pro wrestling. But before I tell you about everything that's coming for events and IWTV and for Fight TV, I want to focus that now is a great time. If you are someone inside of wrestling, now is a wonderful time to build up your skills. And and I say this because I'm not knocking on anybody. It's more about there's a lot of great talent, solid people, solid talent. But there's a lot of people who need to up that skill just that much more to become the next thing that people want to look at, to become what bigger companies are looking at to bring in more talent. So what is that little twitch you need to make to just step up your game? And that's something that now, if you are finding that you have downtime, is something you can do. Do you need to work on building your promos? Do you need to, if you can't get back to a gym, and I certainly understand that too. I mean, I've been in physical therapy for a while and couldn't get back into the gym, even when the state said that we could with the pandemic going on. I had to do body weight exercises and look up yoga exercises. I mean, a lot of that's available for free through YouTube, let alone the services you can get. Like DDP yoga has been the talk of professional wrestling for years. So, what are the things that you can do to help build yourself up? And, that needs to be a huge, huge, huge focus, because as more and more events start coming up, how are you showcasing you're ready for that event? How are you being looked at over that other person? So I throw that out there. Hopefully that'll make sense or click with somebody. So let's talk about action that's coming up this week. First, from IWTV, brand new event from No Peace Underground. New episode today comes out of New South Pro Wrestling Action Clash, as well as an event from Heavy Metal Wrestling. Tomorrow, brand new episodes of Limitless's The Road and Paradigm Pro No Hook. And then on Thursday, events from Beyond and New Texas Pro Wrestling. And then Friday and Saturday on IWTV, New South Pro. And again, you can watch IWTV on their website at iwtv.live or independentwrestling.tv, or through their app on iOS and Android devices, IWTV. Then over on Fight TV, already this week put out brand new events from New Pro Wrestling Magic. Brand new events from Pro Wrestling Magic. There's also an episode of Ring of Honor Roundtable focusing on celebrating Black excellence in Ring of Honor and pro wrestling, as well as a full new episode of Ring of Honor Action, also a new episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And then this coming Sunday, a new event from Noah from Yokohama, Japan. So international events coming your way via Fight TV. So let's talk about other events that are happening this week that you can go join and be a part of. First, this Thursday, out of Atlanta, Georgia, WWA 4, West Warwick, Rhode Island, Extreme Wrestling Alliance, and out of Grimsley, Tennessee, 127 Pro Wrestling. Then on Friday, out of Alabama, in Huntsville, we have New South Pro Wrestling and Chopwell Venom Championship Wrestling. Out of Crossville, Tennessee, Resolute Wrestling, and Tullahoma, Tennessee, Southern Wrestling Federation. Then on Saturday, out of Alabama, New South Pro Wrestling, Pro South Wrestling, Victory Championship Wrestling. Out of Arkansas, Revolutionary Wrestling Entertainment. Out of Florida, Coastal Championship Wrestling and World Extreme Wrestling. Out of Georgia, Livewire Wrestling, Peach State Wrestling Alliance, Renegade Championship Wrestling. Out of Michigan, Metro Pro Wrestling. Out of North Carolina, American Lucha Wrestling, Ring Wars Carolina, Uprise Pro Wrestling. Out of Oklahoma, UWO. Out of Pennsylvania, Rope to Rope Entertainment. Out of Tennessee, Southern Pride Championship Wrestling, Tennessee Wrestling Alliance, Total Psychopathic Wrestling, and out of Texas, Metroplex Wrestling. Then on Sunday, out of Kentucky Elite Pro Wrestling, and I believe this is the first Kentucky event other than OVW that is brand new and making its way back. Out of Tennessee, Revolutionary Wrestling Alliance, and School of Morton. Again, School of Morton streaming every Sunday live through their Facebook page at 5:05. Out of Texas, we have Undisputed Pro Wrestling. And out of the UK, Future Shock Wrestling has 2 events this coming Sunday. So there's still a lot of action that's coming out there. We're seeing a little bit more opening, and as if you've been paying along, a lot of the statistics for COVID cases are really on a steep decline. Unfortunately, hospitalizations are not on as steep of a decline. So some jurisdictions are lightening up while others are sort of holding on for a little bit longer. So we'll have to see how those go. Some of these events that were previously closed door are now having limited sized audiences. So again, hopefully more and more things are going to open up, and especially as we get to warmer weather in North America, that people are going to have more outdoor events, which again may open up the opportunity for more people to come to events, especially if they are outdoor, or even for inside venues to start opening up their doors. So we'll have to see what that brings. So I hope you are having a wonderful week. I hope you're ready for March 2021, y'all. My name is Phil Stamper, and I'll catch you next week.
Thank you, General Manager Phil Stamper. You got some explaining to do. Like I said, I want to know why Hydraulics got reinstated. What kind of deal you guys worked out?
Shenanigans.
Well, Phil Stamper will be an in-studio guest here. He messaged me about it this week, and he's very interested in being here live and in person for you to ask that question to.
Yeah,
so you're going to get filled in person.
That's
right.
In the
but here's the
MCW
thing.
studio.
He wouldn't dare come while Ken Dixon is in the studio
Nope,
because
we
he
got a
knows that
bonus.
he'd have, yeah.
I'm going to subtweet him so hard.
Well, he's got plenty of followers. Yeah, thank you once again, Phil. It is my favorite part of one of my favorite parts of the MCW cast is when you fill us in. And we just closed a pretty significant week for indie wrestling. Just this past weekend, I was down in Tampa for ICW No Holds Barred, 2 super fantastic shows. Also on IWTV, there was VXS, which Phil has mentioned a couple times, and there was one other one. It's skipping my mind right now, but a huge week for indie wrestling, all on IWTV, Independent Wrestling TV, which again is one of the 2 platforms, along with Fight TV, that you can see a lot of content that folks are being able to produce during the time of this global gimmick.
That's right.
Larry, the shows in Florida this weekend, are they getting turnouts at the indie shows there?
Well, it's Florida. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's very relaxed. We had a significant turnout for the 3 that I was involved in. It was also No Peace Underground.
That's a fun one. They look like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so No Peace Underground is
They're
a
wild.
no ring shows.
Wait, what?
It's in like a.
It's in a
concert.
bar.
It's in a bar.
It's called the Sound Bar in Orlando, Florida, and there is no ring. There's a stage that the wrestlers enter, and they fight on the stage. It typically spills down into the pit right in front of the crowd, and
It's pretty wild.
It's
a
wild.
different concept.
It's a concept that was kind of forged by a wrestler from up in Brooklyn called Casanova Valentine.
Nice.
Casanova Valentine is a part-time bouncer, so he knows a lot of bar owners, and he kind of finessed his way into this one bar to let him put on these no-ring death matches.
It's a cool workaround if you want to get around the rules of promoting and stuff. You just show up and you fight in a bar.
So
and they're kind of more organized now.
And Ken is hitting it.
Outside.
Ken's hitting the nail right on the head. Cass was able to avoid a lot of state athletic commission,
and it's
things that you would have to pay
because there's no wrestling.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
and
right.
Just think, we used to make fun of shows like that. When,
Yeah.
you'd
These
see
things
the
are so-
big blue gym mats out there. And guys.
Well, this is like no mats.
Oh no, this is just
great.
in a bar.
So it's kind of neat. Like, I like it. It really appeals to me personally, but it also appeals like to fans, to people who don't like to watch wrestling typically, because you just show up in a bar and sometimes there's a band playing, and then this fight just breaks out. Like, people that don't like wrestling are starting to get drawn in because there's like people are finding really creative ways to interject wrestling into real, like MV Young just did the fashion show last year.
Last year
And then
around this
he did
time.
like a fashion show at like New York Fashion Week, and then a match broke out, or a fight, whatever they want to call it.
Really?
Yeah, Dan, I'm gonna have to hip you to
gotta
this.
hit me, yeah.
So like,
I'd like
there's
to
some
know
really
about it.
interesting stuff coming out of what we're able to do and how guys are getting around it. Like the no ring stuff, which just fascinates me. Like, I'm so appealed. Like, I'm so
Very
into what they're
interesting.
doing.
That there's no reason for the commission to be
Right.
there, technically.
So we talked about this in the first segment about that pilot that was being shot by one of the producers from the Springer Show, and you mentioned it at your mom's house.
Yeah.
And we filmed it at a bar, and it was that same. Toby was about 20 years.
20 years
20
ahead.
years too
Yeah,
soon.
yeah,
So we had filmed. This
100%.
was before you joined us, but we had filmed these pilot episodes
That's
for
awesome.
this concept show.
Tough Man, it was kind of like,
where like one was at Larry's house, one was at a bar, and
The
it was
Kimbo
this.
Slice fights.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it was like shoot
Basically.
fighting, but
Nice.
wrestling.
and they would always, the
Yeah.
fights would just all just break out. Like,
Right.
you know,
That's
like,
awesome.
you know.
It didn't catch on, but Toby was 20 years early,
It
apparently.
was 2000, and he
It was,
he
yeah,
one
like
of the
2002
producers
or
for
something.
Jerry Springer.
Nice.
Yep,
And
so-
he pitched it to NBC. He filmed the pilot because it was shot at
Yeah, it was-
Larry's
in
mom's
that
house.
bar down
yeah.
on
Bar,
Eastern
and,
Avenue, I think.
yeah,
Okay,
it
it
just-
See,
was-
now I stayed at my mom's house after you guys
Oh,
left
we
me,
went-
you know. Everyone
Yeah.
left, and I
Yeah.
just.
It just never like you said, it was probably 20 years too soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah, because now the no ring death
hot.
matches,
It's hot now.
it sure is, and started in New York, and now the company I'm mentioning, No Peace Underground, they're a Florida-based company that took this concept and now they do shows regularly. They use me as a commentator, and then you've got your ICW
And that's
No
what
Holds
it's called,
Barred.
No Peace Underground.
No Peace Underground, and there's a new one that's about to start that's going to be on Fight TV, which is kind of the other streaming service, and that's going to be called oh wait, gosh, everything is slipping me now. It's New Fear City. New Fear City is also going to be debuting on Fight, and they're also going to be no ring death matches. Real quick, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I actually participated in one of these rooftop no ring matches on the 4th of July. The main event was Casanova Valentine versus the Patriot Tom Brandi.
Really?
Now, so real quick, and I don't want to stay on this too long. So Casanova Valentine is known for doing light tubes, panes of glass, thumbtacks, and he asked Tom very politely if you would be willing to get dirty with me in this match, if it can go all over the place. And Tom told him, how about I hit you with all of this stuff? I'm going to hit you with all the light tubes,
Yeah.
And Cass was like, well, sir, will you take one? And he's like, no, don't do that stuff. I don't, you got me here, you're paying me. If we want to do this, I'm going to hit you with all of it.
And he was the promoter?
And he was the promoter that brought Tom in. So, last part of the story. We worked out a thing where I, as the announcer, turned on Casanova Valentine and helped Tom win the match. And the way that I helped him was that I took a light tube that Cass was going to, lambaste Tom with. I took it from him. He turns around, Larry, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm like, I hit Casanova Valentine with the light tube. The light tube ricochets off of Casanova Valentine's head, hits Tom, who's behind him, gigs him on his back. Blood running down his back. And Tom was adamant about, I'll hit you with the stuff. I don't want to do anything.
Was he mad?
Well, he was kind of shook up, actually. He wasn't expecting it, and I remember it was a kind of...
mercury poisoning. Oh, no.
Well, it was kind of a touching thing where after the match, Cass had to clean Tom's back off for him, and they were in the back, and he's like wiping him down with wet wipes and stuff, and
Right, young
Tom
boy, get in there.
got a little bit more than he bargained for
Yeah.
in his first no-ring match. But, yeah, they're really taking off, and No Peace Underground and New Fear City, I highly recommend those, and... I wouldn't mind seeing you get tangled down in Florida.
That's a good time.
That reminds me, just real quickly, of a Tim Burke story.
Oh, my gosh, boss.
Hey, boss.
Hey, boss.
Hey, boss.
I'll got you next time, boss.
Hey, boss. Lucifer Night of the Road. One of the funniest things ever. I witnessed, and he was wrestling Too Cold Scorpio.
Uh-huh.
Him and Bob, they were doing a tag match. And Tim would always book himself with the names, but he wasn't any good. And he was always afraid, like especially Scorpio, the 450.
Crush him.
He was afraid like he was going to. So he said, hey, boss, hey, Scorpio, I just wanted, I'm the promoter, so on this finish, make sure you don't land on me because, you might hurt my arm and I won't be able to reach in my pocket and pay you. That's exactly
That's
what he said.
rich.
It's the best line. He said, hey, boss. I bet you land on my arm, I won't be able to reach in my pocket and pay you. And I
unfortunate.
freaking
It would happen.
cried laughing, cried like hysterically. I was like, that was the freaking one of the funniest things I ever. Like,
Tim
yeah.
Burke's arm must have been hurt every single day. And he told me at the end of the show, I got you next time, boss.
Yeah.
I got you next time, boss. Boss,
Yeah.
let me get you next time, boss.
Hey, boss, I got
I mean,
you.
how many next times is it going to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. But yeah, we gotta get you involved in that because that seems like it's
Yeah.
right up your alley.
Right
A
up my
history
alley.
of violence and the no ring shows.
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see you tangle with some of these guys.
Very good. Well, yours in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get
on, Larry.
around.
Make
me
it
and,
happen.
Me and Phil, we both get around. So I might just have to talk to the promoter, drop a few names.
Larry, maybe you can fill
I'm
Ken
going to
in.
tweet at you with all the eyeballs, the eyeball emojis, and maybe some of these.
Yeah, like
That's how guys get booked now, right?
TikTok.
Can
Oh
you
yeah.
use hashtag numbers because Larry really likes it when you do
Well,
I know.
I mean, I'll tell you this much. In this day and age, you don't even have to be a good wrestler. You just have to be good at the internet.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
you can really get far
Get some
being
really
good at
hot
the
gifs.
internet.
Some really hot gifts, you're good to go.
Well, I predict this right now. Episode 7, we're going to be talking on one of these indie roundups about you making your rounds into this deathmatch community. I know some people.
it.
The no ring deathmatch community.
Right.
I know some people, and I'm gonna make some calls, and I predict that. That's my prognostication.
Ooh, I like that word.
Yeah,
Fancy.
I got it from Johnny Carson.
All right.
All right.
right.
What's about that time, guys?
Yeah, I think so. We had Ken in here. We had you for a while. You
hours.
know,
Good little while, huh?
good chat here, and we want to hear from you. So once again, I just want to shout it out. Hashtag AskMCWCast. Follow us on Twitter at MCWCast2021.
And if you're a Coffee Club subscriber, if you become a member at buymeacoffee.com, then you can ask your questions to our guests in advance. You'll get exclusive, first-hand knowledge of which guest we will have in studio, and you will be able to ask all the questions that you would like.
Absolutely. Well, with that said, I'm Larry Legend.
We're out. I'm Dan McDevitt.
All right, see you next time.
We'll see you next week, episode number 8.
Hundreds of hours of MCW Pro Wrestling action at MCWRageTV.com. That's MCWRageTV.com.